Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Tim here with the TMA Connection. It's a local podcast that focuses on people that are making big differences in the world. And today, we have an enigma, a gentleman that if you don't know him, you are going to be delightfully blessed with energy and so much more. If you do know him, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Steve Sokolov, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Tim. If you don't know me, you'll definitely hear me. If that's usually the way it goes.
There you go. Steve is a local business owner. He owns Black Oak Title, the title company that helps people buy and sell real estate. Give everybody a little bit of a background about who you are and also where Black Oak Title came from.
Sure. No. Yeah. So again, thank you for having me on. I'm ecstatic to be on this, and I've watched it and I've seen clips and shows, and so thank you for having me.
This is awesome.
Great to be here.
This is one we've been planning on doing for a long time.
Yeah. Glad to be here.
Yeah.
So a little bit about my background. So, Steve Sokolov. I grew up in Massachusetts, and I went to undergrad in Massachusetts. Right after that, moved to New York City. And in New York City, I was doing financial advisor. I was a financial advisor right when I moved there, which was prior to 9/11. So I was there during 9/11, and after 9/11 actually happened, I was in production. So I kind of reevaluated things, and I said, you know what, I'm young enough now. Like I want to kind of take a stab at acting and
really,
comedy. Yeah. So I took a step away from that. I quit my job. I'm a Series 7 and all that.
Yeah.
Quit my job, and actually I started doing some acting, and really I couldn't get on stage, or I just couldn't get in roles because you're sort of at the mercy of the directors.
Yeah.
So that's where I kind of jumped into stand-up comedy, and I did that for about 3 years in New York.
See, now I don't know if you're pulling my leg or not.
I swear to God.
That's awesome. That certainly explains a lot then. I'm sorry. Continue.
Yeah, no, it was great, and it was great. I loved it. I love performing. I feed off audience and like the energy, and I had a great time doing it. It just didn't really. I still was not getting paid much, if at all,
right,
to say the least.
Right.
So I loved doing it, but then I met Angie, my wife, who's from Harford County, from Bel Air.
Okay.
So we met in New York, and then we started dating, and I kind of fell out of the comedy scene, and I was really just working in restaurants, bartending, and then I was kind of reevaluating. Okay, what are we going to do? Because I knew we got engaged, we got married in New York City, and then she got pregnant, and so but she was pregnant.
Yeah.
I was there for support.
Sure.
And so while she was pregnant, I said I need to do something different. So I studied for my LSATs, and I always liked law. I always liked the idea of kind of, persuasion and influence and ways to kind of interpret things, the laws in the US. And so I took my LSATs, and Sasha was born in the city. And as soon as she was born, I had my LSATs. I had applied to schools, and we moved out of the city and moved up to Rhode Island for law school.
Wow.
Yeah. And then 3 years there, stayed in Rhode Island. It was great. And then at the end, you got to kind of decide where you're going to take the bar, because you can't really take the bar in more than one state because they all happen around the same time. At least they did back in 2014. So I couldn't be taking it in Massachusetts and Maryland. Yeah. Because of just like literally the physical time difference. So we chose Maryland. My wife's from here with family. So we picked Maryland. And
this is 2014?
Yeah.
God, I just automatically assumed that you've been in the business for 30, 40 years. Well, I mean, you're not that old, but
I am. But
wow.
Yeah. So
wow. And so you get you're a title attorney.
Yeah.
You got your law degree. Wow. And title, like in second grade, like people want to be police officers, firefighters, nurses, doctors.
Title attorneys.
Who says title
That's the
attorney?
next one. It's right in line with all those professions.
Was this part of your comedic act? You're like, what's the craziest thing? What's the craziest thing you could practice law with?
It's the biggest 180 I can do from what I've been doing to the real world. But yeah. So well, it's funny because the reason I wanted to do title work and really real estate transactions is because I look at law as really there's two different facets. One of those being litigation and the other being transactional. I know there's other facets throughout there, but those are kind of the two main streams.
Yeah.
And, the litigation side of things it's exciting. You're in the courtroom, but it's so confrontational. And as you may or may not have guessed, I am not super confrontational. I don't argue just to argue for the sake of things. I like agreement. And I found that transactional work, which was, writing contracts, that sort of thing, or in this case, buying and selling houses.
Yeah.
For the most part, the parties are happy when they get to the table, and one party wants to buy, one party wants to sell, and they cheers glasses. I look at the transactional side as like the marriage, and the litigation side's like the divorce. And I wanted to do more.
You want to focus on the positivity and the celebration, right?
Exactly.
Wow. It's so 2015, is that when Black Oak Title starts, or how do you go from getting your law degree to opening up your own title company?
Yeah. So 2015, I like I said, I moved here, took the bar, had my law degree, but I actually had an opportunity with another title company. Okay. Universal Title, great company. I opened the Bel Air branch up here in 2015, and I kind of went in fresh. As I had a law degree, but I had zero experience, so they took a shot on me, which I appreciated that immensely, and I learned a lot from them. Yeah. But I always had an entrepreneurial spirit. I always just wanted to do my own thing. Yeah. So after 2015, and then I was there, opened the branch, hired, did some staffing, everything else under their umbrella, Universal Title. And then in 2018, it sounds arbitrary. I guess it is. But I was turning 40 in December of 2018. And my wife knows very much that I was like, by the time I'm 40, I need to jump out and do something on my own. And it was literally, that was like the push. And I was like, I can do this. I want to do this. And that's where it happened. I put in my 2 weeks, kind of quote unquote burned the ships, if you will. Yeah. Walked away from what I had there, and I was like, I got to do it. It's got to work, or
just went all in.
Yeah. Yep. And it was great, and I don't never look back.
Jeez, I just again I just from working with you throughout the years and your team over there at Black Oak, I just thought this was a significantly longer process for you.
Well, good. We like that.
Right. So certainly it's a challenge to start a business, and certainly you have to get the right people around you to make this new dream of owning your own title company 100%. A reality. So talk a little bit about how you cast it. How do you cast the people around you to grow?
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it on the head. I mean, it's no one person's an island, and I was blessed and lucky enough that people saw what I was doing and were like, hey, you know what? We want to be a part of that too. Yeah. We want to join you. So, Michael Straub came over and at the end of 2019, and then Greg Fisher and Towson, April Jackson. So Tracy Tankoff, Johnny, and I had people who were out of the industry too coming together. So a lot of things really worked out, I guess, in my favor, but it really in our favor, because, I look at everything I do as just a small part of what we're all trying to do. Right. But yeah, sorry, I don't know. Well,
no, just to be, how did you go about bringing in those people to support what you were trying to start? I mean, you had to get people that had experience. Did they know you already? Did you go and I mean,
chase them down or
chase here. I guess from my perspective, I've come into the title company several times, multiple times. Black.
Well, thank you. We appreciate it.
Once or twice. Yeah, I've been there. No, been there several times, and there's a culture there that there's an energy there that is hard to just put your finger on it. It's like. No, and nobody's faking it. Nobody complain. The people that are working there are just they have positivity. They have energy, and of course, there's things that you put out there on social media or whatever, and sometimes that can be misguided. But I genuinely feel like there's a passion and a good vibe there. Like how do you go about creating that? How do you go about bringing in the right people?
Yeah, I mean, I think like attracts like, right, to a degree. And for one thing, I know we talked about even, Gary Vaynerchuk and, I love reading and I love learning and understanding things and trying to work to be better. So, I've read a lot of books on it and I know that culture is one of the most important things you can do. And if you're not intentional about culture, it's going to grow in whatever direction it just naturally grows. So you're constantly having to, correct the direction, if you will.
Okay.
So when I launched in 2000, it was really the January of 2019. I was very intentional with starting it with values as a foundation and a mission. And the values they're obviously kind of my values because I'm starting off like that, and I'm like, well, these are the things that I think make sense. So we have putting people first, people over the process.
Yep.
We have processes in place to protect people, but at the same time, we're not going to dig our heels in if someone wants to write a check as opposed to sending a wire, right? Like the wire is safer. We view it from that point, but we're not going to sit there and argue with them to say, no, you got to do it our way, because it's all about the people first.
Okay.
So that being proactive, especially with communication. So, red flags come up. We don't want to cause alarm, but we want to inform people.
Sure.
Hey, this is something we're working on, but we're going to get it figured out. But no one wants to go to the settlement table the 2 days before, and all of a sudden you get a phone call from your title person and they say, oh yeah, by the way, there's this huge issue that we didn't tell you about the whole time, and now we're going to tell you about it. So try to get ahead of that. So proactive communication, 1% better every day. I try to tell people I don't care about mistakes. I care if you learn from the mistake. So mistakes are going to happen as part of growth. So as long as everyone's looking at it and saying, okay, I messed this up, but let's learn from it and let's fix it moving forward. So, and then work hard, stay humble, and have fun. And then we have Kumbaya, which is I intentionally make sure we don't talk poorly in a gossipy manner about clients especially, but about anyone in the office, anyone who's working there, anyone who we work with as partners, real estate agents, lenders, because we all know if you've been talked about and all of a sudden, the room's talking about you and you walk in the room, everything stops and there's a different energy to that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it's when I opened up, just being intentional about having those values in place and filtering our behaviors through it. So when the staff is like, I don't know how to respond to this person, I can say, well, are you being proactive about your communication? Are you telling them about it? Are you taking ownership of the parts you can? Are you putting the people first and not just digging in heels over the process? So, so I think trying to attracting people who share in those values and who want the same thing. They don't look at what we're doing as just another transaction. They look at it as fostering relationships.
Now, is there a process to hiring those kinds of people? Is it something of you just kind of pick up that vibe of that person, or even their history, or is it something where you do a disc analysis where you're measuring and you're like, okay, they're a high I, but they have a low C, and I don't even know what this stands for, but it's like a personality inventory, right? But when as you're hiring these people into Black Oak Title, what do you take into consideration?
So first and foremost, before I even bring people in, that is at the top of, the quote unquote job description, which is you have to share these values, right? So you have to put people first. You have to be okay with being proactive and owning your mistakes and owning problems and just sharing credit when it goes good, but owning the problem when it goes bad. Like, you have to be working on yourself and getting 1% better.
Yeah.
So right off the bat, as opposed to like work experience, anything else, like that's what I look for up front. And I tell them that when they come in for the first interview. I tell them that when we're going through the interview process. They're evaluated on those first and foremost, because it's the person. I feel like you can teach, if they have the right values, you can teach them the work.
Gotcha.
If they don't have the right values, it's a lot harder to change someone's value system than it is to change, obviously, their knowledge about how they're supposed to do something.
Sure. The people that are already on your team, because you guys are a team, do they have input with people that you bring into the organization, or is this is Steve's call?
Yeah. No. Absolutely. No, 100%.
I'm the boss. I hired him. Meet the crew.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny too, because, honestly, it's a great point, because I know a lot of people say, like, okay, well, the buck stops here and, at me because I'm the boss. Like, I really honestly do, and I'm not perfect with it. I definitely screw up, but I try to lead with as little ego as possible. So even if I'm going, I'm not sure about this person, and if Josh is like vouching for him, saying, hey man, Steve, we've interviewed, he's right, he's smart, he doesn't know it yet, but he's, I vouch for him, he's gonna be good, like, we will train him up, but he's got the right character for the job and the role. Then I say, okay, and
then when they're a dud, you're like, Josh, what the hell were you thinking of?
I was going to say, but,
I'm not taking ownership on this one, Josh. This one's your fault.
Sorry, Josh. Hey, you made the call. So.
Yeah, no. Right. Now you're fired.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, I try to, because I know that, I want to encourage that behavior from them. So I know that if I'm knocking them down when they screw up like the one time, like, they're never going to raise their hand and vouch for it again. So
sure.
I try to be very intentional in just saying, like, well, I made the last call, and the last call wasn't the right call, right? So if that's the case,
I love the idea of taking ownership on things when you mess up. I think a lot of times people want to just try to divert the blame to something else or somebody else, instead of saying, you know what, I screwed that up.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's huge.
Yeah, 100%. Because I always look at it, and I tell my staff, like, with our meetings and everything else, if you don't own it, you can't fix it. You can't fix a problem that's not yours.
Right.
Like, you got to own the problem, even if it's not entirely your fault the way it went.
Sure.
But if you take whatever ownership you can take, that's where you can start change from. So
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. What sets Black Oak Title apart from all the other title companies that are out there? I mean, there are several great title companies.
Absolutely.
But how is Black Oak different?
And you're absolutely correct. And again, I try to drill this into my staff as well. But title work itself is a commodity to a degree, right? I mean, we escrow money, we hold it in our escrow account. We pay the people who need to be paid. We pay off items. We work with the lender. They send us the money. We sign a bunch of papers at the closing table, and then we record the deed, and their transfer of record is they're now the owner of record. Like, that's the work, and that's a commodity. Like, for the most part, and you can train probably most people to do that, right? So what is the set apart, right? And I honestly believe it's the values that we have and instill, because it's why we're all coming to work every day, but if there's one particular value that I can put out there or say, is that two. One, we try to make the client being the buyer or the seller feel important, right? Feel like they matter. Like this isn't just a financial transaction for us. Like I've never said it, and no one in my staff has ever said, let's just move this along so I can get paid. Right? We don't talk about money. We talk about the deal. We talk about the fact that there's a person there who's like trying to buy a home. There's like maybe a family trying to get into a house. It's not just a transaction. So there's definitely times where, we'll throw in to make it work so that they can get the house. So working around, keeping it legal, of course, but working around it to make sure that, that we get it done and they feel important throughout the whole process.
Yeah.
And then second on that would be just really just trying to crush communication as much as we can. And that's keeping laying out expectations for the client, for the real estate agents who are working with us, anticipating the needs. Like we know you're going to ask for a settlement statement 4 days prior. So we have a review process, and the settlement statement goes out automatically for the agent's review, on that. So really just nailing the communication side and anticipatory communication, really. So,
yeah. As your, part of your business, your biggest source of business is, a real estate agent. Real estate agents make recommendations on lenders, on title, on insurance and stuff like that. How do you break through to develop relationships with agents so that they do feel maybe the trust or the breaking the norm of always using another title company to come and use Black Oak Title and give you a shot? How do you break through that?
Yeah, I mean, and that's obviously the biggest barrier, right? Especially because the transactions are so personal for the buyers and the clients who, usually, like you said, the agent is recommending, right? So, we try to break our best way to try to kind of break through is, at least when we have a listing going, we really try to wow the listing agent and, make them see that there's a difference. Like we're, again, communication, expectations, wowing their client who, not most, but I think a lot of title companies don't consider the seller to be like their client. And we really look at, if you're working with us in this transaction, regardless of who's paying and whatever, like you're all our client, or at least you all have potential to be a client down the road.
Yeah.
Right. So really just trying to set and exceed expectations, based on communication with those agents, especially during the transaction. And then also too, we don't look to work with everybody. We really want to work with agents who and lenders and clients who appreciate what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
So it's why it sounds funny, not funny to say, but we've let go of clients. Like we've let go of agents in the past because they didn't work with us. They didn't flow with us. And they're going to be better off with a different title company out there who's going to fulfill what they value, which just not that it's right or wrong or good or
bad and different. Yeah.
Just different than our values. Yeah. Exactly. So really it's honing in and trying to match us up with the agents who we want to work with and showing them the value in having a relationship with us.
Sure. Well, I mean, I've always, again, you can definitely tell a difference as a real estate agent when you go to a closing to a title company that you've never worked with before, and then you start to appreciate, like, oh my gosh, and like Black Oak Title, like they've got it going on. Like you don't realize that, you sit down with Michael, Jonathan, April, whatever, and they're being very thorough with the person at the closing table. Here's what you're signing and all that. I mean, I've been at other closings where they're just like, read this and sign. Like, where's the interpretation? Where's the people don't buy houses every day.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
So I mean, it's genuinely true. Like, you guys do have a level of service and compassion, when it comes to the process for buyers or sellers. I mean, bar none,
And thank you for that, because, I appreciate hearing that, because, again, you don't always hear. I mean, I think we're doing a good job. I'm confident we are, but, we don't get as much feedback as I think we'd like a lot of times. But the nice thing is, too, Michael's got a fantastic personality. He is incredibly thorough. And like you said, you mentioned April, Jonathan, Greg, Tracy.
Yeah.
They all do a great job, and they all came over with like their big personalities. Mm-hmm. So it was my intention never to like cookie cut them into like, this is how we do it here. Because people work with them because they like them personally.
Right.
All I tried to do with Black Oak was give them a little more kind of guardrails to say, keep your personality, do what you want, but we're just going to add these little things in, these little parts into
right.
it. So,
but you're also hiring them based on their personality that connects with
fit.
what your vision and mission is also.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Man, so gosh, there's so many questions I want to ask you. We dipped into it a little bit, but talk about your leadership style. I mean, you're not the dictator. It doesn't seem like you're the dictator from up top. You know, you are allowing the team to have some input into what's going on. Is anything else that really stands out about you as a leader that maybe me as an agent I don't see, but maybe Michael or Tracy or any of them would see on a daily basis that they would say, hey, these are the good leadership qualities of Steve Sokolov?
Well, I hope they'd say this.
Sure. Let's get caller number 1 on the line right now.
And mute my mic. Yeah, I mean, and again, I love reading up on things, and I love seeing things, and one of the things when I was opening Black Oak was, we'd all worked places where you go into work and you're like dreading going into work every day. Yeah. Right. So, for one, like I always said, if I ever did it, I would never. I want to work I want to create a place where like I would want to go to work every day. Yeah. So I think and hope I've done that. But one of the ways I think I've done that is by I look at 2 different types of companies and leadership, and the culture is based off the leadership as well. But really it comes down to, you have fear-based leadership in companies and you have trust-based leadership in companies. Mm-hmm. So fear-based being, the bosses, iron fist standing over you, calling you out for every little thing you did wrong. He or she is taking the credit for when things go right, like big ego, big things like that. Yeah. No autonomy, or if you have autonomy, you're throwing the other one under the bus so you can save your own hide, right? Yeah. Trust base is, hey, you know what? I hired you based on these qualifications and brains and other things that work or hopefully work. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to give you autonomy, and I'm not going to micromanage and check in on you every single day. You know what's required, and I'm not going to hound you about how you get there. Mm-hmm. I'm going to help you if you want, however you want to get there. Like, I'm here as a resource, but I'm going to help you get there. But I'm not going to be, hovering over you the entire way. Mm. And I think that translates from my leadership style to them as being, hey, you know what? I'm in this company. I'm trusted. I have autonomy. So I don't want to do something that violates that trust, because mm-hmm. Trust is so easy to get, but it's the hardest thing to get back. Right. So once it's lost, it's gone. Right. Yeah. So I think that is, I would love that to be my legacy, so to speak, that, I wasn't, no one ever feared me, but they trust me, and I because I trust them. Yeah. So I think that's, the biggest part.
You're a goals-driven kind of guy. At least it appears that way when I come into your office. You got a big whiteboard with all kinds of different motivational things, and you have goals lined up. What kind of goals do you guys focus on? Does the workplace, does your team have say in what those goals look like? How are you measuring success?
Yeah. So it's funny too, because I love that we're doing this in January.
Yeah.
Which is like
perfect goal setting month.
It really is. Yeah. You know, I'm a big morning routine guy, as I'm sure you are, and I know a lot of people are. But I look at January as kind of like the morning of the year, where you kind of get everything set up for like the rest of your day or the rest of your year, right? So, so I just had all my one-on-ones with all my for like the big one-on-ones where we're setting things and setting things in motion, and here are the goals and this is what we're going after.
Yeah.
So I kind of get their perspective on things and where they're all looking to go and what they kind of want to accomplish, and then I look at what I'm thinking too, and then I try to tie them all together to see, to make sure that for one, I'm making sure that they're getting what they want out of this.
Right.
But also it connects upwardly to what I'm trying to get out of this.
Sure.
So
do you find that a lot of times those things align with the people that you've brought in, like your goals, their goals, kind of?
Yeah.
There's a good marriage there.
There is. And like I said, I'm very lucky and blessed with who has come on this ship, because they do trust me and they put a lot of trust in me, and I don't take that for granted. So that's also like a driving force for me to make sure that like I'm not just resting on my laurels and just sitting back and enjoying and letting them all try to crush every day. Like I want to be the lead example of, okay, let's push, let's go.
Yeah.
I want to like impress and inspire them. So So it's
Well, again, we started this off by saying that there's a lot of energy that comes from Steve Sokolov, right? I mean, you cannot have a conversation with Steve without it's just smiling, right? I mean, there is an energy that you bring to the business every day. You are a very relationship-driven type person. How the heck do you get all the energy
my mom. It's funny because
what supplements do I need to take to get the energy of Steve Sokolov? We're gonna make a commercial right now.
Yeah, we got
take 2 of these.
We got Alpha Brain, and I have 2 cups of coffee in the morning, and then I usually have one.
Is that all?
Later in the day.
Jeez.
But it's funny, and I kind of touched on it earlier. Like I really do. Like I get energized off others as well. So, when I'm in a crowd or like in any sort of setting, like I knew today, like I was like, oh man, I wish, I was going to try to work out before, because I usually get some energy boost. So I work out, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to go there and I'm going to be talking with Tim. We're going to be laughing, carrying on. And like, that's going to spark me. Like, and that's what it is. And it's funny because even when I was like, that's why I used to love bartending.
Yeah.
Because bartending is just, it's so exciting, and it's like interactive, and you're bouncing around. You got tasks, you got a million things going on in your head. You're bouncing here, you remembering that, it's that feeding off everything else that's going on. And I don't get mad that much.
Okay.
And it's not, it's my temperament.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm usually just like, the energy feeds in, and I get excited with and about it. So
the Mrs. Sokolov and the Sokolov
she
kids,
gets sick of
me. They're just like, Dad is just happy-go-lucky all the time.
They may have a...
Drew, we're going to get the Sokolov family on the next podcast.
Yeah, they may have some differing situations where they would say not so much, but for the most part, even when we go travel places or whatever. I mean, the nice thing is obviously my wife is pretty similar. She's pretty easygoing and she's really go with the flow, almost more than me. Like I have opinions.
Yeah.
So if you ask for my opinions, like I'm going to give you my opinion. But my wife is just kind of like, yeah, that's fine. We'll do that. We'll work with that. Like she's pretty good and easygoing and flowing with it. So, and the kids are great. Like one of them though, Waverly is my youngest.
Okay.
And Sasha's my oldest, but Waverly is like me when I was her age. And I'm like, sometimes Waverly goes nuts and I'm like, man, my mom used to, no wonder she wanted to like kill me all the time. Cause she's got no off switch. It's,
well, neither does her
similar.
dad. I mean, jeez, there is no off switch. I mean, you are always up. I mean,
yeah.
For your, I mean, and I know you do work out in the mornings, so that probably gives you a level of energy. But is there a downtime for Steve, or is it just always on the go, always thinking, always moving? So come on, give me the tea. I want to know. Does Superman have a weakness here?
So it's just, I mean, I don't know if this, I mean, I definitely have downtimes, but I will say this, I meditate literally every day. And I'm not just saying that to be like, oh, I do this other great thing that people talk about. Like, I just, it's worked for me and I've been doing it now for like 4 years. Okay. Maybe 5 years.
So you are able to get quiet.
Yeah. So I like even keel it out and and like hold that. Yeah. But it works great too, because sometimes I get frustrated or think too many things are coming at me and I'm going what I got to do something else. So, and the meditation honestly like puts it in perspective. It evens me out and it's been working. Yeah. And I started doing that when I opened Black Oak because I knew everything I'd read and seen and heard is I know people like lose their like the stress of the business and responsibilities and everything else can like break people. And there's people have heart attacks at, too young at age. And a lot of times it's stress induced. So I kind of like just said, well, this is going to be something like I worked out still, but the meditation is just an added piece because I knew I wanted to figure out like a healthy way to deal with the stress. Yeah. As opposed to, going to, I mean, I like having a drink from time to time as well, but I don't use that as like an outlet. I use that as just like, okay, we're being social and I'll have a couple drinks and we'll have fun. But I knew I knew I needed to kind of deal with that before it gets too bad.
That's huge. Yeah. That's good to have that self-awareness because there is so many peaks and valleys of the real estate business, whether you're in title or lending or being a real estate agent, and for me at least, it can play on my mind at times, and I do need to have that morning workout. I do from time to time do maybe a little meditation, nothing like super strict or anything, but just try to be present, close my eyes, take a few deep breaths, those kinds of things. But if you don't have the self-awareness to put things into your life, daily habits, whatever that is, it makes it for a very challenging ride. Yeah. And I find that when I do those things as well as reading, I love to read too. Yep. Learning, just trying to learn as much as possible. But it's like you got to feed those things into your calendar before anything else. It's like you're on a plane. You got to put the oxygen mask on yourself first before you can give it to the person next to you, in order for you to be the best leader that you can be for Black Oak Title, you need to take care of yourself first.
Absolutely.
Before you can take care of everybody else.
Yeah. I love that analogy. Yeah. Like when you're on the plane because you have to bring it down and help yourself first. Because you're absolutely right. Like a lot of people, all the demands of every day just keep coming at them and you have to consciously stop and pull away and say, okay, well, I need to do like, regardless of all the things that's going on, like I need to do this first so that I can go handle what's going on. So absolutely. It makes, cause I didn't want to burn out anytime soon. And I don't think anyone goes into something, but planning on burning out. So you just have to have those, those checks and balances in place
Yeah.
ahead of time.
Yeah, 100%. Wow. Well, let's throw you in some last minute wrap up questions.
I love it.
All right. Respect your time here, right? I definitely got to ask my energy question. That's a good thing. Yes. Okay. What are you most looking forward to in 2025?
I know this is so like cliched, like positive dude, positive guy thing, but I just look forward to what's coming.
Yeah.
Like I just, the future, I guess specifically this year, I'm as happy as I've ever been with the crew that we have in Black Oak. It's as great as it's been, and I look forward to just adding to that and gaining more territorial share in other places. So from a business standpoint, growth definitely, but the right kind of growth. I don't want to just grow at all costs. Like keeping the culture at the core is the most important.
Yeah, I think about that sometimes too, because we have Adam and Dan on the team, and my dad still does a little bit in the background and everything. But it's like you start thinking about like wanting to grow the team, bring in more agents. But then it's like, do I really want to do that? Like I don't want to mess up what I have going on right now with these guys.
Yeah.
So finding that balance is certainly something that I keep on thinking about.
Yeah.
That how big or how sometimes bigger team, bigger problems,
Well,
I want to come to work every day and enjoy the people that I'm working with. That's first and foremost.
First and foremost.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, I look at growth too, and sometimes we all get kind of fixated, or just when we hear about growth, we see it as linear growth, right? Like upward momentum. But, growth can be multi-directional, right? In the sense of, I want to grow by growing inside and making sure like this group is as tight as possible, and we're developing the people who we already have, because that's growth in another way, or giving back in a way, with like charitable events and things like that. Like that's community growth. So I always try to, because we all want growth, but I always try to at least bring in perspective, like the market's been tough for a little while, and so I always try to like bring that perspective into everybody. Like, hey, we didn't like explosively grow as far as like transactions and revenue. Yeah. But look at how much we've grown. Like I had a guy start last year who didn't know anything about. He didn't have a basis in the language of what real estate was. He didn't know what a deed of trust was. Like all these little things. And I met with him in January, and he was like, "Dude, look at this." He's like, I didn't know any of this beforehand. And now he's like, I can, he's like recording things, and he understands it, and he's calling the counties, and he's reaching out, and the counties know him, and that's cool.
That's growth.
Yeah, like that's growth, cool. Right? Yeah. Like, I mean, he grew. So, I try to keep in perspective that growth isn't only up.
Yeah. Yeah. More quality.
Yeah.
We set a goal one year. We wanted to do 50 transactions. We ended up doing 78. It was like right at COVID time, right? And you think, oh my God, we crushed it. But then it was like, okay, now what? Do we just increase it again? So instead now, really, when I focus on goals, it's more on the quality of life and the quality of the lives of the other people that are working with me than it is about getting to X amount of transactions, X amount of sales volume. Because if you do the job right and you keep people first, all those things will work out.
Yeah.
But you got to keep people first.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. And there's always human beings and families and at the forefront of everything we do. Yeah. And that should be, you don't want to grow at the cost of, lessening your value to them. Yeah. But also, to be specific, we're taking a family trip. We're going to Japan.
Let's go.
Also in 2025. So I figured I'd throw something.
That's incredible. Hey, that's all. I mean, to be able to have those kind of experiences is you've busted your tail to make that a possibility. You know?
So I'm so excited. I'm going to eat so much sushi, and I kind of want to try fugu, which is blowfish. And like, do you know about fugu? Yeah. There's like, so basically there's only like a certain number of Japanese sushi chefs who can cut it because there's an endotoxin in it that will kill you if you eat it.
Oh, jeez.
But you're it's like a delicacy. My wife's like, you're not eating that. There's just no reason. But I'm like, I kind of want to try it, babe. So we'll see.
Get that life insurance policy up. Yeah.
Exactly.
You mentioned you read a lot of books. Based on leadership, growing your business, what has been the one or two books that have been the most instrumental in helping you become successful?
I love books.
Yeah.
Stephen Covey with 7 Habits of Highly Effective People and his 8th habit. Hands down, it's foundational to every, in my opinion, like just people in general.
Yeah.
And you can learn. I mean, every time I've reread it like 4 times, I listened to it, and every time I do, like I get something else out of it, or something connects in a different way that I go, that's where that connects. So I love it. Like I recommend it to everybody, even if they've read it. I go, read it again.
There's a few books that are just like they're timeless, and you can pick them up multiple times and get something out of it every time you read it.
Every time.
Yeah.
And Simon Sinek's Start With Why.
That's a great leadership book.
Yeah. It's just and he's so. I mean, he's so like. I know there's like many more concepts of it, but he has like the circle, and he goes start from the inside out. And it's absolutely true. It's like if you start with your core and what you believe and what you want, and everything else will fall in place, because that's, if your values are there and you're giving that value outwardly, everything else will gain from it. That's
great. Awesome. Well, Steve, I want to acknowledge you, man. I've looked up to you for so long, not just as a person, but a good man, a good leader. You're running a very successful business, which I thought was a lot longer in existence than what it was.
I appreciate that. I'm like,
it's a great compliment, But just again, coming through your office and working with the people within your company, you can just tell that there is a level of culture that is just so phenomenal, and I can only hope that I can replicate some of that with my own team. And I really look up to you as a man and a human being. You guys do a lot for the community. You're just good people, and every single person at Black Oak Title is much the same.
Well, thank you. I very much appreciate that. And, I'm amazed every day that I'm surrounded by people who I literally love coming to work with.
Yeah.
And they're like my second family. And you're right. Like, I don't know. I mean, I don't think I did anything different than a lot of other people. I feel very lucky though, every day.
Yeah, but there is something different, and I know I don't necessarily, I can't put my finger on like that specific thing, but there is definitely something special you got going on, and it's in large part to your leadership and the people that you've surrounded yourself with. It's just that's what it is. So whether you want to take that or not,
Well, I appreciate that. I feel like,
and then we'll have the Sokolov family on the next podcast, where we'll really get
you'll get some real dirt,
the down and dirty truth about who this enigma is. If people would like to connect with you, whether it's through business, through title, for anything, how can people reach out to you best?
I mean, honestly, if anybody knows me, I'm not great with emails or texts, so phone or always in person. Like, I pop by the office, connect with me. I mean, I have people check.
206 South Hayes Street?
206 South Hayes, first floor.
Yeah, which you bought the building.
Yeah.
Incredible.
It's awesome. Things lined up appropriately.
Yeah.
And
it's a beautiful piece of property, what you've done inside there. And of course, all that took place during COVID.
Yeah.
when you're trying to get everything off the ground there.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God.
It's great. It's funny, Steve Jobs, you can't connect the dots forward, only looking backwards, right?
Yeah.
And it's so cool just to sometimes, stopping and saying like, holy crap, like look at how far like we've come, like everybody. Like Michael's at this point employee number 2, and he's been there for along the ride, and he's on the same boat, and he's like, I love it. Like, and
well, and you're making, that reminds me, I'm glad you brought his name up, because you're known to get other people that are in the office to go out and work out at 4:00 in the morning. Like, that's leadership, man. Like people just don't do that for anybody. Yeah, but you guys are out there running and in the garage lifting and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. I mean, you're a magnetic man, dude. Jeez.
Well, thank you. I appreciate
Look, if this real estate career doesn't work out for me, I'm going to come work for you and probably lose 20 pounds while I'm at it.
Well, you did the hard 75 every year, right?
I did, yeah. But, man, come on.
You crushed us. You had abs.
I did have abs.
That's pretty. I mean, I've never in my
only
life.
Only the closest friends saw the ab pictures, the daily transformation. Yes, they are there. Believe it or not, they are there. So, oh my God, Steve Sokolov, it's been a pleasure, my friend. Please, reach out to Steve if you need anything. Please connect with us on Instagram and Facebook at the Markland Advantage, as well as our YouTube channel, where we're trying to grow that as well. This is everything that I thought it would be, and a lot more.
I appreciate that.
Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Sokolov. Until next time, live your life to the fullest, and we'll see you soon. Take care.
Love it.
Awesome. So did you like this episode of the TMA Connection? Well, you might want to check this one out right here. Go ahead. Click it.